I think when you grow up in Montana, you're pushed into kind of some of these adventure sports because they're just, that's what's around you in Montana. And again, skiing was kind of in its infant stages of where the sport is compared to now. And the people that were coaching me and I was learning from were kind of these skiers on the almost like the local heroes, the underground legends of the area. Who these were the guys that were coaching me and teaching me as a kid. And at the time, I didn't realize how influential and impactful they were for kind of the entire sport as a whole. But now looking back, essentially 20 years with hindsight, seeing the role that they played in progressing the sport and pushing it in new boundaries, it's kind of phenomenal that I was just lucky enough to kind of be at the right place at the right time. Um, a lot of this story kind of follows a similar story from the documentary Dogtown Z Boys, which was sort of about the underground skateboard culture in Venice Beach, California in the 70s, and how these rogue renegades created the sport of, at least progressed the sport of skateboarding. The same thing was happening in Montana in the mid 80s, early 90s. It just never got much attention. And again, I just happened to be at the right place, right time, getting coached from these people, seeing how phenomenal these athletes and doing it just for the pure love and passion for it. They weren't doing it because they were trying to be famous or be professional athletes by any means. They just loved doing it. And then the whole process really came about when I was in contact with a tourism organization in Montana, and they contacted me asking if I had any ideas for storytelling opportunities around winter sports in Montana. And the first thing that came to mind is I said, you know what, as a very passionate Montanan who loves this place and loves the people that come from here, I think there's an untold story about the skiers who really helped build the whole sport and never got proper recognition for it. And that was what Legends of Yellowstone was all about. I was lucky to know these guys, so I literally just reached out and said, "Hey Tony, hey Mickey, long time no talk. Remember I'm Little Wade? You remember me from when I was skiing with you at 10 years old?" They said, "Oh wow, yeah, we haven't talked to you in years, but we would love to hear kind of your idea on this story." And it really was just chronicling their past and their contributions to what the sport's become. And it was cool. You hear these stories of they were kind of just doing things. These were really blue collar guys with little means, and kind of in an era in Montana when it was pretty cowboy. There was no speed limit in the state. There was no open container laws. So it was just super Wild West and hard to imagine what that era looked like. And so the sport evolved kind of in a very unlikely, unique concoction of ingredients. But if it wasn't for those guys, all the X Games and all the big Red Bull skiing stuff that's happening now, these guys were the unlikely heroes that helped create that whole sport. So yeah, I'm for me that was such an empowering story and so fascinating for me that it took over a year in the making, but we dug hard for finding all this literally hundreds of hours of vintage footage from the 80s and 90s, and then being able to get some of these interviews where some of these people had never been on camera their entire life, and so you're getting some interesting almost first time footage, never seen before footage, and then piecing that story together. It was only supposed to be like a 5-minute little piece, and then it turned into a 3-part series with 10 minute episodes. And that to me showed that, wow, there's just and that was hard to make it only 10 minutes, because there was such a big story there. We probably could have made it, into a full length thing, but we tried to nail it down to those pieces. But that's some of that story. And I'm really passionate about that whole part of the country and the people that came from there. And I just hope that the story did that. I hope how I told the story did it some justice.
And I'm proud of you for doing all that. That is probably the best ideal for content creators. Like when you find a passion and you find that project that fits you like a glove, and you're able to not only brainstorm it well, you're able to grab all the players together and they're able to participate and also brilliantly execute it. That's all that you have. That's a content creator's dream.
Yeah, I think I got lucky too because I had a great team who was with me on that. I think like you said there, it's pulling on the right people, pulling on the right people, pulling on the different creatives that can then help kind of turn that vision and make it into life. I was lucky that I had my partner Abby, who I mentioned is an amazing special effects makeup artist. She also produces a lot of the content that you see out in the world. So I'm so fortunate to have found someone that I can work so closely with. And a lot of the people, the director of photography on that's a good friend of mine. And the art director is one of my best friends. And so I was lucky that a lot of the people who are on this project, I have close relationships with them as well. And I think that's the dream, is when you can work with people that, you have great relationships with, because I think that synergy and collaboration energy that you have outside of work is naturally going to translate into the quality of work that you do.
Awesome. Now, what are some of the challenges that you face as a content creator, and how have you overcome those obstacles?
Good question. I think right now something that I've seen, and I think probably everyone sees it as a content creator, we can all speak to it, is there's just more content in the world than there ever was before. In 2013, when we were last talking, YouTube was still a way different phase than it is now. It was still a little bit more novel. Now, having a YouTube channel or having a platform isn't as novel as it used to be. There's, everyone is doing, not everyone, but a lot of people are doing some form of content creation. So the challenge there is, how do you break through that noise? What are you going to do that's going to, get your voice out? How are you going to connect with your audience? And that seems to be, I think, a challenge for a lot of people. Even in some of the algorithms in some of these social media platforms, you see change. And of course, there's an uproar from the creators themselves. You saw that with Instagram when they changed their algorithm. Everyone kind of freaked out because it essentially made it more challenging to connect with your audience. And I see that too. It's engagement is less than it was even a year or two ago. But I think something that I've seen from this is it really is making people focus on what gives them their special niche. What is your unique angle, and really triple down on that. Make sure that people know of you in a certain, maybe not know you in a certain way, but they know that when they come to see your content, they're going to get this kind of stuff. And so when they're thinking of, I'd love to hear something, if someone's thinking about, oh man, I wonder if there's any unique games or sports in the state of Texas. Well, I want to think of Wade for that, because maybe he's covered some crazy game or festival or sport that is a little more off the beaten path, and that's the brand that I'm really trying to hone in on, because it is what I'm most passionate about. And it's what I think I have a knack for creating. So whatever your knack or your unique angle is, I think now is the time more than ever to really triple down on that and create content that's really showing your specialty skill.
Absolutely, 100%. And also, we got to talk about social media. Like you said, YouTube has skyrocketed since we last spoke.
Exactly.
And then we have these wild card players in the form of TikTok and Instagram.
Yes.
So, what are some of your favorite platforms, and why are they their favorites? And which is one channel that you would like to improve for your platform?
So I think I started on YouTube. I still am a huge fan of YouTube because I think that's where you're going to get more long form storytelling. You can, for me, video is huge, right? So I translate, my content translates best on video, and especially if I'm, being on camera for me, when I can show my natural, my true excited, passionate enthusiasm for whatever I'm doing, that translates best on usually long form video. So YouTube is kind of where I started. Instagram, I have a love-hate relationship with Instagram.
Don't we all?
Everyone does. Come on. I love Instagram for the fact that it seems the networking and collaborative opportunities is just so strong. The fact that I can DM someone immediately and say, hey, I love your content. And if they're in Los Angeles, I'd love to grab coffee with you and just talk. You can do it. I don't need to get their email address, or I don't need to get their phone number to get to know them. I can talk to them right there on Instagram. And you can do it in other platforms, but I feel Instagram is just a quick, easy way, slide in those DMs. And probably a platform I do want to start focusing some of my audience onto, which I think some people hate and some people love, is TikTok. TikTok is definitely this emerging platform. Jake is already just give me a sigh of disgust. I see it.
I'm sorry, but here's the thing. Wade. I'm like looking when it comes with TikTok. I don't get it.
I know.
Here's the thing. I'm a person. The reason why I see people like my friend Everett Williams, who's a male fashion blogger, or I see Howie Mandel, who has a huge audience, or Logan Paul, who's been diving and like switching off and on between it. It's like those people, those are made for them. But like at the same time, for me, what can I TikTok? Because a lot of my stuff is not TikTokable.
See, and that's okay. You bring up a great point. And this is what I think people are misconstruing about TikTok. I think because a lot of the success that you see on TikTok right now is that TikTok-y equation. It's like dancing to music, or it's doing these quick little comical cuts that are very like, it's almost like Vine-y of how Vine was back in the day, right?
Yeah.
So I know what you're talking about, because my content isn't necessarily geared for that either. And again, take this all with a grain of salt, because I'm still trying to figure TikTok out too. But a conversation that Abby and I were having the other day is that we're starting to see some creators on TikTok that are not going with that equation. They're just doing what they do best, which is being themselves. And they're talking about or creating content that they know that their audience on other platforms have resonated with. And my thought is, because TikTok is still in such its infant phase, it's so early, like TikTok is like YouTube 2009 or something, right? Like it's so early. So I think a lot of people get caught up, because I do too, of being like, I don't know how to make my content so applicable to TikTok. But I think, honestly, people are thinking too hard about it. Just use the platform and do what you normally do. But I've seen people who aren't even using music or the quick cuts. They're just doing a quick video of talking, like tips on mountain biking gear. Hey, I'm going to tell you about how to fix your bike in 7 seconds. Here you go. Take a look. And that's it. There's no music. There's no comedy. So, and I think because it's so early, give it a few years. And I think people that are just investing in it now and doing that, even if you're not seeing success in it, in the next few years, you might be able to, I think you'll be able to garnish an audience if you're staying authentic to how you like to tell your content. Do it that way on TikTok. I think it was the same thing when people were on YouTube and be like, well, how do I use Instagram to tell my 10-minute video story? Well, they just started being able to post a screenshot from their video on Instagram, push them to their Instagram, and then Instagram came out with stories, and then Instagram came out with a video platform on it, in IGTV. So there's always going to be things on these newer platforms that will evolve. And I think the hesitancy, because I understand it. I, for the longest time, was in the camp of I hate TikTok. What are people doing? I'm not using this app. But then I had to take a realization of, okay, where will this app be in 5 years? Who knows? And as long as I'm staying true to the content I'm making and don't change that style, I think there's a room for that on TikTok.
I hope so. Fingers crossed, because I may be singing a different tune if I use it in the